There is a question that echoes across centuries. A question asked in a mountain temple, beneath pine trees that have witnessed the passage of empires. It is a simple question, yet it contains within it the seed of transformation. A teacher once asked his student, "When 10 opponents surround you, each bearing a blade, how many will fall by your hand?" The student, young and confident, answered without hesitation, "Every one of them." The teacher shook his head slowly. "You misunderstand. You will not strike down a single opponent, because in the moment you concern yourself with 10 adversaries, the first one has already found his opening." This is the paradox that lived at the heart of the warrior tradition. Victory emerges not from action alone, but from a quality of attention, not from the perfection of technique, but from the state of mind that makes technique possible, not from the weapon you carry, but from the stillness you cultivate within. Those who grasped this truth became legendary. Those who failed to understand it did not survive to tell their stories. And here is what remains hidden in plain sight. This principle extends far beyond the battlefield. It speaks to the way we live each day. Right now, at this moment, you face your own 10 opponents, obligations that demand your attention, relationships requiring care, questions about purpose and direction, worries that arrive uninvited, and perhaps you are losing each battle for the same reason warriors fell centuries ago. Your attention is scattered across too many fronts. You stand in one place while your mind races toward 10 others. The question becomes, are you willing to discover what those ancient practitioners understood about the nature of attention itself? In the early years of the 17th century, when Japan had finally emerged from generations of warfare into an uneasy peace, there existed training halls where the old ways were still preserved. In one such place, hidden among mountain forests, a young man named Takeshi devoted himself to the path of the sword. 5 years he had trained, 5 years of rising before dawn, of practicing forms until his body moved with mechanical precision, of studying the classical texts, of pushing through exhaustion and doubt. His strikes were clean, his footwork was exact. By every measurable standard, he was progressing. Yet something essential was missing. During practice matches with wooden swords, his mind would fragment. One part of him executing the technique, another part evaluating his performance, another part anticipating his opponent's reaction, another part worrying about the observers watching from the edge of the training floor. His body had learned the movements, but his mind had not learned to be where his body was. The other students noticed this quality in him, a kind of internal tension that preceded his actions like a shadow before a storm. They spoke of it quietly among themselves. He has studied well, but there is something unsteady in him, something that thinks too much. The final examination approached, the test that would determine whether a student had truly absorbed the teaching. And Takeshi's instructor had not mentioned it, had not indicated when or if Takeshi would be ready. One evening, after the day's training had concluded, Takeshi approached his teacher. The old man sat in formal posture before the small shrine, eyes closed, breath moving slowly through him like water through stone. Takeshi knelt, waited. The minutes stretched. The light changed in the room. Still he waited, because this too was part of the training, learning to be present even in waiting, especially in waiting. Finally, the teacher's eyes opened. "Master," Takeshi began, his voice carrying a tremor he tried to hide, "when will I be prepared for the examination?" The teacher regarded him with eyes that had witnessed more than Takeshi could imagine. "Your technique is adequate now," he said, "but technique without foundation is a house built on sand. I don't understand. Stand, take up your practice sword." Takeshi rose, gripped the wooden weapon. "Now strike me." Takeshi lifted the sword, positioned himself. But his hands betrayed him with their trembling. His teacher sat there, unarmed, completely vulnerable, the perfect target. Yet something stopped Takeshi cold. "I cannot," he said finally. "Why not?" "Because you are my teacher. It would be improper." The old man's expression hardened. "You deceive yourself. The truth is simpler. You are afraid. Afraid of what comes after the strike. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of failure. Your attention is divided among 100 concerns, when it should rest entirely here, in this single moment." The words landed like stones in still water, rippling outward through Takeshi's understanding. "Until you learn to gather your attention completely," the teacher continued, "you will remain incomplete. You will carry excellent technique into situations where technique alone cannot save you." That night, Takeshi sat in his small room, watching moonlight trace patterns across the floor. 5 years of dedication, 5 years of sacrifice, and he was failing not because his body was inadequate, but because his mind refused to settle. He remembered the teacher's observation. "Your attention is divided among 100 concerns." It was painfully accurate. During every practice match, Takeshi fought against shadows of the future, worried about appearing incompetent, anxious about the outcome, distracted by self-evaluation, never simply present with what was actually happening. As dawn approached, something crystallized in him, a determination not just to train harder, but to train differently, to find the answer to this riddle of presence. The next morning brought an unexpected announcement. No sword practice today. Instead, the students would clean the training hall, sweep the floors, wash the windows, organize the weapons, maintain the shrine. Mundane work, manual labor. Takeshi swept the wooden floor he had swept countless times before. His mind wandered immediately. "This is wasted time. The examination approaches. I should be refining my technique, not pushing a broom across boards." Then he noticed something curious. His teacher was also sweeping, but there was a different quality to the movement. Each stroke of the broom carried a completeness. When sweeping to the left, the teacher was fully engaged in sweeping left, not thinking about the next stroke, not distracted by other concerns. The simple act seemed to contain a kind of dignity, a presence that elevated the ordinary task into something meaningful. Takeshi found himself captivated, watching this demonstration of total attention applied to the most basic activity. After the cleaning concluded, the teacher gestured for Takeshi to follow him to a small meditation room behind the main hall. Inside, a single scroll hung on the wall. 2 characters, brushed with elegant simplicity. "Do you know these characters?" the teacher asked. "Shoshin," Takeshi replied. "Beginner's mind." "And what does this mean to you?" Takeshi considered. "To approach each practice as if encountering it for the first time." "Deeper," the teacher said. "When a true beginner picks up a sword for the very first time, what occupies their mind? Curiosity, interest in learning the basics." "Yes. And what else?" Takeshi thought. "Nothing else, perhaps. Just the immediate experience." "Precisely. The beginner's mind is empty of expectation, empty of concern about performance, empty of fear about future consequences. The beginner thinks only about this grip, this stance, this single movement, not about becoming the greatest swordsman in the land, not about winning or losing, just this immediate moment of contact with something new." The teacher settled into a seated position. Takeshi mirrored him. "Now tell me, when you sweep that floor, where does your attention actually rest?" Shame rose in Takeshi like heat. "Elsewhere, on the examination, on my progress, on whether I'm wasting time." "And when you practice with the wooden swords?" "The same, concerned with outcomes, with how I appear to others, with not failing." "So you inhabit a strange existence, never fully present for anything you do." You sweep while thinking about swords. You practice with swords while thinking about tests. You are always one step removed from reality itself. The words cut because they were true. The warrior's greatest capacity, the teacher continued, is not skill with the blade. It is presence, complete attention, remaining aware, an immovable center. All the classical teachings point toward this same understanding. Be fully here, right now. He gestured toward the scroll. Beginner's mind is the foundation of everything. Empty yourself of the 10,000 thoughts. Face only what stands directly before you. How do I practice this? Teacher asked. Starting tomorrow, you will train differently. Every activity, eating, walking, sweeping, sword practice, will be done with complete attention. When you eat, only eat. When you walk, only walk. When you lift your sword, let nothing else exist in that moment. For how long? Until understanding arrives. Perhaps 30 days, perhaps 30 years. This depends entirely on you. That night, Teacher began. He sat for meditation, but instead of striving to achieve anything, he simply sat, breathing, present. Thoughts arose, as thoughts always do. Am I doing this correctly? Is this working? What if I never understand? Each time, he acknowledged the thought and returned his attention to his breath, to this moment, to the simple fact of being here, now. It was harder than any physical training he had ever endured. The practice. The first week felt like walking through deep water. Everything slowed down. Simple activities became almost unbearably detailed. Eating breakfast transformed into an eternity of sensation. The texture of rice, the subtle flavors, the movement of chewing. Walking to the training hall became an exercise in noticing each footfall, each shift of weight, each adjustment of balance. Takeshi's mind revolted. This is pointless. You're falling behind. The other students are advancing while you're just being present. But he continued. The teacher had offered a path, and Teacher would walk it completely. The second week brought a shift. During one morning meditation session, something unexpected occurred. For just a handful of seconds, the constant commentary in Takeshi's mind simply stopped. Not because he forced it to stop. It just ceased. In that gap of silence, he heard the wind moving through the trees outside, the subtle creaking of the wooden buildings settling, his own heartbeat steady and sure. It felt like waking from a dream, like opening his eyes for the first time and seeing what had always been there. The moment passed. The mental chatter resumed. But now Teacher knew. Silence was not a myth. Presence was not theoretical. It was a real state, available in each moment. He intensified his practice. When sweeping, he became the sweeping, the movement of the broom, the sound of bristles against wood, the sensation in his arms and shoulders. That was his entire universe in those moments. When eating, he tasted each grain of rice, as if it were the first and last grain he would ever taste. When walking, each step contained its own completeness, heel touching earth, weight transferring forward, balance adjusting, toe pressing off. The other students thought something had broken in him. They whispered among themselves. Teacher moves like an old monk now. Has he abandoned the warrior path? But the teacher watched in silence, waiting. The third week brought the real test. A sparring session. Teacher faced another student, a talented practitioner named Kenji, who had already passed his final examination. They both held wooden practice swords, assumed their stances. The old teacher would have been drowning in thought right now. Kenji is more advanced than me. What if I embarrass myself? I need to prove something here. The new teacher simply stood, present, aware. Kenji attacked. A fast overhead strike. And something remarkable happened. Tishi's body responded without thought. He sidestepped, deflected, countered, all in one fluid motion that seemed to arise from nowhere. No planning, no hesitation, pure response. Kenji stumbled back, surprise visible in his face. They reset, engaged again. This time, Takeshi experienced something he'd never felt before. He wasn't fighting Kenji. He was simply present with the movement. When Kenji moved, Takeshi responded, not from memorized technique, but from immediate awareness. The fight moved through him rather than being controlled by him. When the match concluded, Kenji bowed deeply. "Something has changed in you," he said. Takeshi bowed in return, saying nothing. But inside, understanding was beginning to dawn. Presence wasn't just a meditation practice. It was the source of genuine response. When fully present, you don't react from fear or calculation. You respond from awareness itself. And awareness is always faster, always more appropriate, always more effective than thought. That evening, the teacher summoned him. "Tomorrow," he said simply, "you will face your examination." Fear rose in Takeshi. Then he felt it, acknowledged it, let it pass. Here, now, only this moment. "Yes, teacher, I am ready." For the first time in 5 years, these words were true. Understanding through action. Before continuing this story, it helps to understand what was actually occurring beneath the surface. The ancient practitioners didn't have access to modern neuroscience, yet they understood something fundamental about how attention works. What Takeshi was training wasn't mysterious or supernatural. It was a specific capacity of the human mind, the ability to rest fully in present moment awareness without being carried away by the constant stream of thought. When Takeshi practiced, bringing his attention back to the present moment, he was actually strengthening specific neural pathways. The regions of the brain responsible for attention and emotional regulation were being developed. The areas associated with anxiety, rumination, and self-referential thinking were being quieted. This isn't mysticism. This is measurable change in brain structure. Research on long-term meditation practitioners shows increased density in regions controlling attention, decreased activity in areas associated with mind wandering and anxiety. The brain literally rewires itself in response to where we place our attention. The greatest swordsman in Japanese history wrote extensively about this. He spoke of seeing distant things as if they were near, and near things as if they were distant. This is the perspective of presence, being fully engaged with immediate experience while maintaining clarity about the larger context. A Zen master who advised many warriors explained it this way: the mind must always be in a state of flowing. When it stops anywhere, becomes fixated on anything, that interruption damages its natural function. Modern psychology calls this flow state. The ancient practitioners called it no mind. But there's a deeper layer here. When Takeshi fought Kenji while fully present, his fear response had less control over his actions. His body accessed trained movements without the interference of conscious thought. This is what no mind actually means. Not the absence of thoughts, but the absence of identification with thoughts. Thoughts arise and pass, but they don't control you. One classic text advised warriors to meditate daily on inevitable death, to imagine being cut by blades, struck by arrows, faced with all the ways combat could end. This sounds morbid, but it's sophisticated psychology. By fully accepting the ultimate fear, death itself, warriors freed themselves from fear's paralysis. They understood a fundamental truth. You cannot control outcomes. You can only control presence. When you're fully present, fear doesn't disappear, but it no longer dictates your actions. You feel it, acknowledge it, and act anyway. This is what the ancients called the immovable mind. Not unmoved by emotion, but unmoved by the compulsion to react blindly to emotion. Takeshi had discovered this truth not through reading, but through living it, through 30 days of choosing presence over distraction, awareness over thought, being over becoming. Now he would face the ultimate test of that understanding. The examination. Dawn. The training hall courtyard. Takeshi stood in traditional garments, wooden sword in hand. Across from him, his teacher held a real katana, steel, sharp and deadly. This was the tradition. The student uses wood, the master uses steel. The difference in weapons represents the difference in skill. If the master chose, one strike would end Takeshi's life. Around the courtyard, witnesses gathered. Other students, masters from neighboring training halls. This was formal, official. Takeshi's success or failure would be witnessed and remembered. The teacher spoke, his voice carrying across the silent space. Takeshi has trained for 5 years. Today, he faces the examination, not to defeat me. That is impossible, but to demonstrate warrior spirit, to show presence under pressure, to prove his understanding. The old master settled into fighting stance. The katana caught the morning light. Takeshi's heart beat strongly. His hands wanted to tremble. The old Takeshi would have been drowning in fear right now. What if I fail? What if I die? What if everyone sees my inadequacy? But the new Takeshi took a breath, felt his feet on the earth, heard wind in the bamboo grove, saw his teacher's stance. Here, now, only this. The teacher moved, a testing strike, fast, controlled, aimed at Takeshi's shoulder. Takeshi's body responded without thought. He sidestepped. The katana whispered past his ear, so close he felt the air move. He countered with his wooden sword, not trying to hit, simply responding to the opening that appeared. The teacher deflected easily. They reset. They circled each other. Another attack came, faster this time. A combination, high strike, low sweep. Takeshi flowed. His body moved before his mind could interfere. Block, dodge, counter. The steel never touched him. Around the courtyard, murmurs spread. This was unusual. Most students spent the entire examination defending desperately, trying merely to survive. Takeshi was responding, adapting, present. The teacher increased the intensity. Real speed now. The kind of speed that ends lives in actual combat. And here's what happened. Takeshi stopped trying to win. Stopped trying to impress. Stopped trying at all. He simply existed, present with each moment, each movement, each breath. The confrontation became something like a dance. The teacher would strike. Takeshi would respond. Not from technique, but from immediate awareness. Even after blocking, he remained alert. Even after countering, he was already present for the next moment. 3 minutes passed. In combat, an eternity. Then the teacher did something unexpected. He created an opening, a clear, obvious gap in his defense. Most students would attack immediately, desperate to score a point, to prove themselves. Takeshi saw the opening, recognized it, didn't take it, because presence revealed the truth. It was a trap, an invitation to overcommit, to break form, to abandon awareness in favor of achieving something. He waited, maintained his presence. The teacher saw this. Understanding passed between them in that moment. Teacher recognizing that the student had truly grasped the lesson. Then the old master lowered his katana, stepped back, bowed deeply. Enough. You have passed. Silence. Then applause from the watching masters. Takeshi bowed, trembling now that the intensity had released. Not from fear, but from the sheer depth of focus required. Later, in private, the teacher explained. 5 years ago, you arrived here wanting to become the best swordsman. Today, you became something more valuable. You became present. The sword is merely a tool. Presence is the real weapon. When you didn't take that opening, you showed wisdom. The immature warrior tries to win every exchange. The true warrior understands that some victories are defeats wearing a disguise. Takeshi listened, but something stirred inside him. A question forming. Master, I've passed the examination. I'm officially a warrior now, but I feel as though this is a beginning, not an ending. The teacher smiled. Yes, this is the first transformation, from student to warrior. But there is a second transformation, from warrior to master. And for that, you must leave this place. Tishi's eyes widened. Leave. Yes, I am sending you to a temple on the sacred mountain. There you will train with the monks for 1 year, not in swordsmanship, in pure presence, in meditation, because the next level of mastery isn't about fighting better. It's about transcending the need to fight at all. Tisher thought he had learned presence, but on that mountain, with those monks, he would discover that what he'd learned was merely the beginning, a shadow of what was possible. The deepest training was about to unfold. The mountain, the sacred mountain, rose from the surrounding landscape like a gateway to another realm. Ancient temples nested among the peaks, places where monks had devoted themselves to meditation for centuries. Tisher arrived carrying his swords and his warrior's pride. The head monk, a man named Master Iku, looked at him with eyes that had witnessed 6 decades of practice. "Leave your swords at the gate," he said simply. "You won't need them here." "But I am a warrior," Tisher protested. "Here you are a beginner. Here you will learn to sit." And so began the most challenging year of Tishi's life. No sword practice, no combat training, nothing he associated with being a warrior. Instead, sitting, hours upon hours of meditation, just sitting, watching the mind, being present. The first month was psychological warfare. Tishi's mind screamed in protest. "This is pointless. You're a trained warrior. You should be perfecting your skills, not sitting motionless like a stone." His legs cramped, his back ached, his mind raced with thoughts, plans, memories, anxieties. Master Iku would walk among the meditating students, carrying a wooden stick. When he saw someone's mind had wandered, visible through posture, breathing, subtle movements, he would strike their shoulder. Not hard, just enough to snap attention back to the present moment. Tisher received many such reminders, but he persisted, because somewhere deep inside he understood his teacher had sent him here for a reason. The path continued beyond what he had learned. The second month brought a breakthrough. During one meditation session, Tishi's mind was particularly chaotic. Thoughts everywhere, frustration with lack of progress, anxiety about wasting time. Then Master Iku rang a bell. Time for walking meditation. The student stood, began walking in a slow circle around the meditation hall. 1 step per breath, heel to toe, complete awareness. And in that moment, something clicked for Tisher. Presence isn't about stopping thoughts. It's about not being controlled by them. Thoughts would always arise. That's what minds do. The question was, do you chase after them, or do you let them pass like clouds across the sky? He began watching his thoughts without engaging them. "Oh, there's anxiety about my training. Interesting. It's just a thought, not reality itself." And he would return to his breath, to the sensation of walking, to here and now. The thoughts didn't stop, but they lost their power over him. Months 3 through 6 brought deepening. The monastery routine became his entire world. Wake before dawn, meditation, simple breakfast eaten in silence. Work meditation, chopping wood, carrying water, tending gardens. More meditation, study of sacred texts, evening meditation, sleep. Every activity was practiced with full attention. When chopping wood, be completely with the axe, the wood, the movement. When eating, taste every grain of rice as if it were a gift. When reading, absorb each character fully. Tisher discovered layers of presence he hadn't imagined existed. There was surface presence, paying attention to the task. Then, deeper presence, feeling the space between thoughts. Then even deeper, recognizing the awareness that's always there beneath all thoughts and feelings. The monks called this original mind, the unchanging awareness that witnesses everything but is never disturbed by anything. The 7th month brought a second test. Master Iku called Teacher to his quarters. You've been here 6 months. You've learned to sit, to be present in stillness. Now you must learn presence in chaos. He handed Teacher a letter. There is a village 3 days' walk from here. Bandits have been terrorizing the people. The village headman has requested help. You will go alone. Handle this situation, then return. Teacher felt old patterns activate, the warrior mind rising. Finally, a chance to use my skills. I'll show them what a trained warrior can do. But underneath that, new awareness. The ego wanting to prove itself. Interesting. He bowed. Yes, master. I'll go. As he prepared to leave, Master Iku added one more instruction. Remember, Teacher, the goal is not to defeat bandits. The goal is to maintain presence. Whatever happens, stay here now. That is your real test. Teacher walked for 3 days through mountain paths. Each step a meditation, each breath a return to presence. He arrived at the village as the sun was setting. The confrontation. The village was small, perhaps 30 families living in fear. The headman explained the situation. A group of masterless warriors, men who had lost their lords and turned to banditry, were taking food, money, whatever they wanted. The villagers were farmers, not fighters. They had no way to defend themselves. How many? Teacher asked. 5, led by a man named Katsuru. He was once a respected warrior, but after his lord was killed in the wars, something broke in him. He turned to this life. That night, Teacher sat in meditation. Tomorrow he would face 5 trained warriors. Alone, the old Teacher would have been terrified, planning strategy, worrying about death. The new Teacher sat with whatever arose. Fear came. He acknowledged it. Yes, fear is present. That's natural when facing danger. But he didn't let it control him. He remembered his training. Presence. Here. Now. The outcome doesn't matter. Only this moment matters. Dawn arrived. The bandits with it. 5 rough men, dangerous and hardened. Led by Katsuru, tall, scarred, eyes that had seen too much. Teacher walked out to meet them. Unarmed. The bandits laughed. The village hired a bodyguard. 1 warrior. Boy, go home before you get hurt. Teacher stood in perfect presence. Grounded. Aware. Still. Katsuru stopped laughing. Something in Tishi's stillness unsettled him. You're different from the usual village defenders, he said. Who trained you? Yamamoto sensei and Master Iko. Katsuru's eyes widened slightly. He recognized those names. Masters of masters. So you think you can stop us? Teacher smiled gently. I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to speak with you, as one warrior to another. This confused the bandits. Where was the challenge? The bravado? The threat? Teacher continued, voice calm and present. Katsuru, you were once a respected warrior. You served with honor. What happened to bring you to this? For a moment, something flickered in the bandit leader's eyes. Pain. Loss. My lord was killed. My honor died with him. This, he gestured to the village. This is all that remains. No, Teacher said quietly. Your honor isn't gone. It's just sleeping. Beneath the pain, beneath the anger. It's still there. The other bandits shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't how these confrontations usually unfolded. Teacher stepped closer, completely undefended, completely present. I know the warrior code says you must serve a lord, but what if there's a higher service than serving any single master? What if you could serve something that can never be killed, never be taken away? And what is that? Katsuru asked, hand on his sword but not drawing. Presence, awareness, the part of you that remains when everything else is lost. Master Ika taught me. You can lose your lord, your lands, your life, but you cannot lose your true nature. Silence hung in the morning air. Katsuru stared at this strange young warrior who faced 5 armed men with nothing but words and presence. You're either very brave or very foolish. Perhaps both, Takeshi smiled. But I'm also very present. And in this moment, I'm offering you a choice. Continue this path of fear and violence, or remember who you truly are. One of the other bandits sneered. Katsuru, why are we listening to this? Let me cut him down. He drew his sword, rushed forward. Takeshi didn't move. Completely still, completely present. No fear, no aggression, just awareness. The bandit's sword stopped an inch from Takeshi's throat. He couldn't do it. Something in Takeshi's presence, the absolute absence of fear or resistance, made violence impossible. The man stumbled back, confused. Katsuru watched all this. Then he did something unexpected. He knelt, bowed his head. "Forgive me," he said. I forgot what it means to be a warrior." The other bandits stared at their leader in shock. Katsuru stood. "We're leaving. We won't return." He looked at Takeshi. "Where is this Master Iko?" "The sacred mountain temple. Perhaps I'll visit him, if he'll accept a broken man." Takeshi bowed. "There are no broken men, only men who have forgotten their wholeness." The bandits left. The village was safe, not through violence, through presence. The return. Takeshi returned to the mountain temple. Master Iku was waiting, as if he had known the outcome before Takeshi left. "Tell me what happened." Takeshi recounted the story. The master listened, nodding occasionally. "And what did you learn?" Takeshi paused. Then understanding flooded through him, like light through an opening door. "I learned that presence is the ultimate capacity, not because it defeats enemies, but because it transforms them. When you're fully present, completely grounded in awareness, you become like a mirror. People see themselves reflected back." Katsuru saw his true nature in my stillness. The bandit who attacked me saw the futility of violence in my lack of resistance. Presence doesn't fight. It doesn't need to. It simply is. And that quality of being is more powerful than any weapon. Master Iku smiled. "Yes, this is the secret the greatest warriors discover. The ultimate victory is not defeating others. It's transcending the need for conflict altogether." The legendary swordsman won 60 duels. But at the end of his life, what did he write? "Step by step, walk the 1,000-mile road." He wasn't talking about defeating 1,000 enemies. He was talking about presence in each step. The master's voice grew softer, more contemplative. The beginner warrior thinks, "How can I win this fight?" The advanced warrior thinks, "How can I be present in this fight?" The master warrior realizes, when you're truly present, there is no fight. This is the final teaching. Beginner's mind isn't just about learning. It's about seeing every moment fresh, complete in itself. Remaining awareness isn't just about staying alert after combat. It's about understanding that life is combat, and you must remain aware always. Immovable mind isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It's about being so rooted in presence that nothing external can shake your internal peace. You've learned these principles through the sword, but now you understand they apply to everything. Every conversation, every meal, every breath. This is what it means to be truly a warrior. Not someone who deals death, but someone who brings life through presence. Takeshi bowed deeply. "Thank you, Master, for everything. Your training here is complete. Where will you go now?" Takeshi had been thinking about this question. "Back to my first teacher's training hall. Not as a student this time, as a teacher myself, to pass on what I've learned." Good. The circle completes itself. Student becomes master. Master becomes student again. This is the way it has always been. The circle continues. 10 years passed. Takeshi now runs the training hall. His first teacher, old Yamamoto-sensei, has retired to a quiet hermitage in the mountains. A new student arrives. Young, Eager, technically gifted, but anxious. He reminds Teacher of someone he once knew himself. Master Teacher, the young man says, "I want to become the greatest swordsman in the land." Teacher smiles. He has heard this before. He said it himself once, in what feels like another lifetime. "Come sit with me." They sit in formal posture, before the shrine. The same shrine where Yamamoto-sensei taught Teacher about beginner's mind all those years ago. "Do you see the scroll?" Teacher points to the characters hanging on the wall. "Yes, master." "What does it say?" "Shoshin, beginner's mind." "And what does that mean to you?" The young student thinks carefully. "To approach training with humility." "Yes, and something more. It means to be fully present for this moment. Not the moment when you've become the greatest swordsman. This moment, here, now. Because I'll tell you something that took me years to understand. There is no moment when you become the greatest. There is only this moment, and the next, and the next. If you can be fully present for each one, you'll discover what the greatest warriors know. The sword is merely a tool. Presence is the real weapon. And presence doesn't make you the greatest warrior. It makes you free. The young student looks confused, exactly as Teacher once did. "I don't understand, master." "You will, with time and practice. Now, before we begin sword training, we'll start with something else." "What's that?" Teacher hands him a broom. "Sweeping. And when you sweep, just sweep. Be completely present with the broom, the floor, the movement. Can you do that?" The student looks disappointed, but nods. "Yes, master." Teacher watches him begin, sees the mind wandering, the impatience, the desire to be doing something important. He sees himself 10 years ago, and he smiles. The story of Teacher is not about swords. It's not about defeating enemies or becoming the greatest warrior. It's about something far more fundamental. The quality of attention we bring to each moment of our lives. Consider your own existence right now. How many battles are you fighting simultaneously? How many concerns occupy your mind? Work that demands your focus. Relationships that require care. Health that needs attention. Questions about direction and purpose. Worries about the future. Regrets about the past. You are surrounded by your own 10 opponents. And perhaps, like the young Teacher, you are losing each battle not because you lack skill or intelligence or dedication, but because your attention is fragmented across too many fronts. You stand in one moment while your mind races toward 10 others. The ancient practitioners understood something we are only beginning to rediscover in our modern world. Presence is not a luxury. It is not something reserved for meditation retreats or quiet mountaintop monasteries. It is the foundation of all genuine effectiveness, all deep satisfaction, all real connection. When you eat while thinking about work, you taste nothing. When you work while worrying about relationships, you accomplish little. When you speak with someone while planning your next response, you hear nothing. You are everywhere and nowhere, busy, but not present, active, but not alive. The teaching of beginner's mind invites us to approach each moment as if encountering it for the first time. Not because we pretend ignorance, but because we release our assumptions about what should be happening and simply meet what is actually happening. The practice of remaining awareness asks us to stay alert even after we think the moment has passed. To recognize that life doesn't divide neatly into separate events. Everything flows into everything else, and presence must flow with it. The cultivation of a movable mind doesn't mean becoming cold or detached. It means developing a center so stable, so rooted in awareness itself, that the storms of circumstance cannot shake your fundamental peace. These are not abstract philosophical concepts. They are practical capacities that can be trained, just as Teacher trained them. Through simple practices repeated daily, presence becomes not something you occasionally achieve, but something you increasingly embody. When Takeshi faced those bandits unarmed, he didn't defeat them with technique. He met them with such complete presence that violence became impossible. His stillness reflected their own forgotten wholeness back to them. This is the power that emerges when we stop trying to control everything and simply become fully present with what is. You don't need a sword to practice this. You don't need a mountaintop monastery. You need only this moment and the willingness to be completely here for it. Sweep the floor with complete attention, and you practice presence. Eat your meal with full awareness, and you practice presence. Listen to another person without planning your response, and you practice presence. Each moment offers the same choice Takeshi faced. Will you scatter your attention across 10 concerns, or will you gather yourself completely here? Now, the path is not complicated, though it is not easy. It requires no special equipment, no particular beliefs, no extraordinary circumstances. It requires only the willingness to return again and again to this moment, to what is actually here rather than what you imagine should be here. This is the way of the warrior, stripped of its historical trappings and revealed in its essential truth. Not violence, but presence. Not domination, but awareness. Not striving to become something, but being fully what you already are. The cycle continues, as it has for centuries. The student becomes a teacher. The teacher becomes a student again. Understanding deepens. Presence expands. The practice never ends because each moment is new, offering its own unique invitation to wake up, to be here, to live fully. Takeshi's story is your story. The training hall is wherever you are right now. The teacher is this present moment. The examination is happening now and now and now. The only question is, are you here for it? In stillness, there is movement. In presence, there is power. In this moment, there is everything.